All right, let's kick it all off, though, with our top story today. And the much-anticipated meeting between the Chinese and US presidents is just a few hours away at the G20. Of course, the rest of the world leaders are all watching to see the outcome of those talks very closely in the hope that perhaps there can be a truce in this spiralling trade war. Well, let's go live now to our Sky News chief political reporter, Kieran Gilbert, who is in Osaka. And Kieran, as we made mention, a big day on the agenda today, particularly for the US and China. What are we expecting to hear in particular? Any sort of outcome on that trade truce?
Yeah, Leanne, well, we're at the G20 in Osaka, but really it's all about the G2, US and China today, isn't it? And that meeting, as you say, is coming up in the next couple of hours. In fact, at 11:30 local time, which is 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Australia. And it's the rest of the world leaders, the rest of the world, the markets, all wanting to see what happens. I think the most likely scenario is some sort of incremental step forward, maybe that truce that you spoke about in the introduction, because the context of this is Donald Trump's already imposed $250 billion worth of tariffs, essentially tariffs on $250 billion worth of imported Chinese goods. The threat is that he will extend those tariffs to another $300 billion plus worth of Chinese goods imported into the United States. There are tit-for-tats happening, of course, against America. Just in the last couple of days, Walmart and Target wrote to the president, along with hundreds of other US companies, saying, please end the trade war. Let's see if he can do that. Probably not end the trade war, but maybe, as I say, some truce and possibly a commitment to restart substantial trade negotiations. Yesterday, we caught up with the Prime Minister. I asked him how realistic at least some incremental step is when those two leaders meet today.
They'll meet. As I said, coming into this meeting, things retreated from where they were at post-Buenos Aires. That's disappointing, and it does require them to come a bit of distance, I think, to get to where you're talking about, and I hope they do. But that means that will either happen or not happen. What we have to do is continue, I think, in the advocacy we're making, but also not stand still.
KG, the Prime Minister, obviously a busy man today as well, set to hold several bilateral meetings with a number of leaders, but he's obviously also got this push to get some support in getting greater control over the use of internet, and with good reason.
Absolutely. This was prompted, Jim, by the Christchurch massacre. The Prime Minister has made it his key focus at the G20 to get more international cooperation in pressuring the social media giants to use their technology, the algorithms that they have within their power, to stop violent and terror-related material being broadcast live onto the internet, as we saw in that atrocity a few months ago. He has had promising support from leaders including Macron of France, Trudeau of Canada, Abe of Japan, among others. Today, as you rightly point out, he's got a series of other bilateral meetings, including key ones with the Indonesian president, and no doubt he will be continuing to make his case. We caught up with him yesterday, and again, on this issue, he says it's not about trying to censor the internet.
What we're not doing is seeking to constrain free speech. It's not about that. It's about the internet being weaponised by violent terrorists in the same way that they can pick up a more standard weapon. This is now part of the armoury of terrorists, and the G20 has an opportunity to send a very strong signal about that.
There will be another plenary session where all the leaders sit around and talk about things, matters of global importance today, including sustainable development, among other matters. However, that big meeting happening here in Osaka, the Chinese President Xi Jinping, US President Donald Trump, happening in 4.5 hours from now.
All right, Kieran, we'll leave it there. Thanks for the update. No doubt we'll be catching up again soon. Kieran Gilbert there reporting, of course, live from the G20 in Osaka.